hasn't felt affected by the pollution this way? Especially if you're living in the northern plains, Delhi, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana. As you're driving around, you can't help but feel the apocalypse has arrived. In the morning today, I was driving from Faridabad to Delhi, and as I look around, I couldn't see anything. I could barely see the traffic lights, the buildings, the road dividers. It felt like I was stuck in a haze of toxic gas. And as I was standing, I was at a bus stop. And, it just so happens coincidentally that these things just come up in front of you sometimes. But I looked to my right and I saw a mom with a tiny baby. And I'm guessing the age of the child, but he wouldn't have been actually more than 1 year old, probably just a few months old. And the baby was just coughing away, coughing away, coughing away. And I saw her try to, she had her saris pallu out and she was trying to breastfeed the baby. And the baby wasn't latching on and he was crying. He or she was crying. And I had a recording today on breastfeeding, and it was one of those things that just stayed with me, and I thought I should share it, that this is what our lives have sort of come to today. This is Sonali Acharjee, and you are listening to Health Wealth, a podcast that wants to leave you feeling better informed about your well-being, but also motivated and enthusiastic enough to do something about it and to make those correct decisions in life. I remember when I was growing up, not breastfeeding your child was considered a cardinal sin. Now I have a lot of friends who are very, very openly, freely happy to say that we choose not to breastfeed because it's too painful, it's too troublesome. We don't have the time for it. And they understand the consequences, or so they think they understand the consequences. Certainly, I have not come across an extremely comprehensive understanding of what happens when you don't breastfeed a child. Particularly in today's time when we're also exposing our children to so many other health hazards, air pollution being one of them, the kind of food that we're eating, the kind of lifestyles that we're leading, the stress, the emotional burdens, the horrible men on dating apps. But, when life is already having issues, should we then also be adding one more issue by not breastfeeding our children? And it was something that just because I've been coming across so many women saying that we choose not to breastfeed and don't shame us for it. We know what we're doing and we're okay with it. And I certainly don't wish to shame anybody, but I would like to know why is it important to breastfeed? And that's why I decided to do this episode. And we have with us today somebody who will guide us through breastfeeding, the nutritional aspects of it and why it matters. She is Divya Malik Dhawan. She is a nutritionist with Apollo Cradle in Delhi. And she's come on air with us today. Hi, Divya. How are you?
Hi, Sonali. I'm good. How are you?
Thank you so much for taking the time out today and
Thank you
joining
so much
us.
for having me there.
Yeah. Just sometimes I like to assume that I know nothing when we're starting a discussion. So I'm going to ask you something extremely basic, that what is human breast milk?
Okay, so human breast milk. So milk which is produced by mammary glands. Okay, all females have mammary glands and they produce milk. So the milk which is produced by the mammary gland of the female is known as breast milk, right?
And why does it matter? Why is it important at all? Because all mammals do it. So why is it
It
important?
is the most, optimum, I would say, nutrition, or I would say the most important nutrition for baby to grow, right? That's why we generally advise, or we advise a lactating mother that you should be eating good so that you're lactating well,
Mhm.
right? If I'm talking about that, what if a mother is breastfeeding and if a mother is not breastfeeding, that is totally dependent upon what they think or what they feel. Like you said, that you should not be ashamed what you're doing. Okay, if you're not breastfeeding, it's okay. If you're breastfeeding, it's okay. But one must know, even in hospital, when somebody asks us that we don't want to breastfeed, so we generally advise or we suggest that, see, this is totally yours choice, that whether you want to breastfeed or you don't want to breastfeed. But there's certain important thing you must be knowing. For example, if you're breastfeeding your child, definitely your child IQ level will be more as compared to the child who hasn't breastfed. Secondly, of course, a breastfeeding or colostrum, which is there, the initial milk, which we say, is very good in terms of antibodies. Okay, in terms of fighting with infection. Thirdly, the mother will not be having breast cancer, uterine cancer. The mother uterus will come back to its position, which is very much important. The uterine bleeding, which is there after postpartum, will, as compare, the bleeding will be reduced. Okay, if I'm talking about the babies, of course, like I said, that they'll be fighting against infection in better way. The chances of getting diabetes in later stages will be as compare less. Asthma will be as compare less, or any kind of disease will be as compared less. So these are the advices, or these are the things we generally advise to our patient. Rest their call. They want to breastfeed or they don't want to breastfeed is their call. There is no such word, I would say, bad mothers. All mothers are very good. So whatever they are thinking is for their child. But there are certain circumstances which mother wanted to feed, but somehow they are not able to feed. That can be because of the nipple problems.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Actually, sometimes I feel that we have an image of everything in our heads even before we do it, right? So there's this sort of very romanticization of breastfeeding as your child will just naturally latch on and it'll be this beautiful bonding experience. And it's not always like that. And I think that also adds to the reason as to why women sometimes just, it's a bit of a shock that, there's so many issues that come with breastfeeding. So I really wanted you to discuss a little bit of those problems. And as you said, nipples, cracked nipples is something that a lot of women are very like, it affects them.
yes, yes, you are very right, Sonali. If I'm talking about, see, all the antenatal mothers, they wanted to breastfeed, right? But when it comes postnatal or postpartum, once the baby arrives, I would say 40% mothers, because of some complication, like you said, cracked nipples, sometimes they have engorgement, sometimes they have sore nipples,
Hmm.
sometimes they
It's
have
very painful, I
mastitis.
believe. I mean, we are
Yeah, it
saying
is
sore
very
as if it's
painful.
like a, sore throat, but I believe it's terribly
Yes,
painful.
yes, terribly painful. You're right. It is. So always says that whenever a pregnant woman is coming to you, like Apollo Cradle, they take antenatal classes as well. So at that point of time, we address all these issues to the patient or the mothers, right? So
Right.
these things can be addressed. Of course, counseling is very much important for these mothers. So if these kind of issues is being addressed at that particular time, so
Yeah.
they will take things better.
So
Breastfeeding,
if you have, for example, if you have sore nipples, it is something that can be treated.
yes, of course, it can be treated. So if I'm talking about sore nipple, generally we
Hmm.
advise whenever baby arrives or whenever you latch on the baby, there are certain things or a technique which I would say that whenever you're latching on the baby, the areola part, that is the black part behind the nipple, should be in the mouth of the baby. Maximum areola part should be in the mouth of the baby. Baby should not be suckling your nipple. If baby is suckling your nipple, definitely you will have sore nipples. Okay. Secondly, baby should be turned towards you. Baby head, the baby bum should be in straight line. Okay. And thirdly, the chin of the baby should be on the breast of the mother. So if you are taking care of the technique, how to latch on, definitely you won't be having sore nipples. Okay.
And
Secondly,
yeah, please,
yeah.
please continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Secondly, because mother has to feed again and again every 2, 3 hours, she needs to feed again and again. Sometimes because of that, mother can have sore nipples.
Right. And tell me, before we get to how to latch, I mean, since we've covered that, um, getting babies to latch itself
Yes.
has been problematic for some women I know.
Yes.
Um, how can that be sort of supported or resolved?
See, of course, every woman has different, I would say, nipple shape. Okay. Of course, babies, all the babies are not like that. If you latch, the baby starts suckling. Mother is also in the process of learning. Baby is also in the process of learning, right? So when you latch the baby, like you said that, that some mothers, or generally we see that generally babies are being taken and they latch on easily. No, it is very difficult. Breastfeeding take a lot of patience. Okay. So if you're talking about the latching,
Mm.
of course, you must first of all, some expert, like being lactation consultant also, some expert has to be there in the hospital, right? Right now we are having some maternity hospital, not all maternity hospital or not all hospitals are having lactation consultant. So they don't know how to latch the baby. The nurses doesn't know. It's a course. I mean, this is a qualified course, I would say. So latching, how mother should feed, how frequent mother should feed is being, suggested or being advised at that point of time. So, in terms of latching, first of all, it is of course very difficult for a mother who has undergone CSAC, cesarean. It becomes really difficult because they cannot stand or they cannot sit for coming 8 to 10 hours. At that point of time, we generally ask our experts or sister that they need to latch the baby in sleeping or in lying down position only.
Right.
Okay, once the mother is up, then the mother can latch on. But latching is basically a technique how your baby is latching on your nipple, right? So if technique is not being followed properly, definitely, like I said, sore nipples will be there.
Yeah.
You may have cuts and bruises also. You may
Mhm.
have babies not suckling from the breast proper milk. Definitely you may end up with engorgement also. There's certain
Right.
things, okay,
Right.
which one must be aware, and this awareness can only be created through counselings.
No, I remember during my early days of journalism, a good 10 years ago, I'd gone to a village in Madhya Pradesh.
Okay.
And I came across a mum who was waiting for her turn at the local primary health center. And she wasn't able to make milk. And that was the first time. I was very young. I would have been like 24 or something, and coming from an urban city where we're all, exposed to great diets,
Mhm.
I thought milk just comes very naturally. And since then, I've been reading up on low milk supply and how it affects new mothers, how it affects the babies. Do we have treatments for low milk supply today?
Yes, we do have treatments. First of all, let me tell you, see, diet, of course, play a major role in, milk production, but it also depends upon the baby, how baby is suckling. If baby is not suckling well, if baby is not latching well, definitely your milk production will not be happening, because this is a hormone which gets secreted in the brain of the female, and at that, once it has been secreted, then only that hormone is known as oxytocin, then only you get the milk. If baby is not suckling well but you're eating really well, right, then also you'll not have milk production. Okay. Secondly, of course, technique of latching is very important, right? Thirdly, I said like diet plays a very important role, liquids play a very important role, right? We have many galactogogues right now. Okay, there are some natural galactogogues if I'm talking about ajwa and jeera, but mothers are also getting some medicines like tonic granules, lactare, perinom. They are basically helpful in building up the milk production.
And
Okay.
there's another condition which I've actually know very little about, and I was hoping you could educate us on it. It's called mastitis. Am I
Yes,
saying it right?
mastitis. It is basically
Yes.
mastitis. So
Mm.
it is a kind of inflammation or infection on the breast, right? So your basically what happens, engorgement is the initial stage when your breast is getting heavy, right? So you have lump formation, that is known as engorgement. But that ducts got blocked, milk ducts got blocked, and you have infection or inflammation that can be through thrush of the baby, through mouth of the baby, or any other infection, right? At that point of time, if it is not treated well, it can be can get into mastitis, which is again very painful. You may have pus formation also. At that point of time, we generally advise either to get that done through drainage, or we generally advise that, for the time being, the mother should not lactate.
Right.
Okay, you never know that pus
Right.
can come to the baby mouth also.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So while
Yeah.
pouring the milk, baby may get that pus. So that if mother is having, because it is very painful for mother, if mother is having that mastitis issue, it is
Mm.
very painful. At that point of time, either we ask to have antibiotics if they can be, subsided by antibiotics. If it is not getting subsided by antibiotics, then you go for drainage.
Yeah.
So it's very painful, very
Yeah.
painful. So that's why, again, I'm saying at the time of their postpartum period, we generally advise for hot fermentation, go with the towels, or hot water fermentation, simple hot water fermentation you can do. So why we generally advise, so that they are not going towards engorgement. If they are going towards engorgement and it has been not treated well, definitely they may end up with mastitis, which is very painful, very painful.
Yeah. I remember once I was getting a scar treatment done on my face, and the dermatologist had to put needles into my face. And I
Mm.
had a friend with me who was a male, and he said, "Wow, you can take pain so well." And I said, "Well, you don't realize it. My body has been designed for pain. And every time I see a new mother, it's one of those extremely proud moments of how much this beautiful body has been, evolved to handle.
Correct.
Breastfeeding is one of them. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned diet as one of the, key players in the quality of or the quantity of breast milk.
Yes.
What ideally should a mother be having during this period?
So postpartum mothers, of course, need a lot of iron, a lot of protein, a lot of calcium, and omega 3. Because antenatally, also, if you're starting with omega 3, it is very good for the brain development of the baby, right? So if in case mother has missed antenatally, can start postnatal also, because at that point of time also the baby brain development is taking place. So if mother is having good amount of omega 3 through flaxseed, through walnuts, through salmon fish. So it will go to a baby. It will go to baby, and it helps in brain development. Protein. Why we generally say protein? Because it is very much required for the recovery. Right? If you're having good protein diet, definitely your recovery will be as compared better. Thirdly, like I said, you need iron and calcium, because there's loss of iron and calcium. Baby will take everything from you for sure, right? So you need to have good amount of iron. You need to have good amount of calcium, because your body is going into decalcification. Because baby is taking milk from you, of course there will be a lot of calcium. When it comes to milk production, body or baby take calcium from the body only, or from the mother body only, right? So at that point of time, you may have decalcification, generally vitamin D deficiency, and the chances of osteoporosis is very high in females. That's the only reason.
You know, we did briefly touch upon shaming, breastfeeding, and the concept of shame. Um, when I was researching on it, I came across so many different ways in which women are shamed for being unable to breastfeed. So there's nipple shaming, your nipple size isn't good enough, or I mean, all sorts of reasons. You partied during your pregnancy, or you slept late, or you're too busy to produce good breast milk, anything to sort of um, find an answer and primarily put the issue onto the woman. And I feel that, we don't realize the impact of stress on breastfeeding. So even if somebody, for whatever reasons, is unable to, putting that extra stress is just not going to make anything better. Is that something you've also observed?
Yes, of course. I generally suggest in my classes during taking my lactation or antenatal classes, see, family play a very important role, right? You cannot be judgmental about everything. The mother is not able to produce milk, you're judging upon that. The
Yeah,
mother is having nipple issues, you're judging upon that. The mother is not able to lactate well, you're judging upon that. So, family plays a very important role, right? If family is supporting, if husband is supporting, if we generally say is that mother at that point of time has a lot of hormonal changes which occur in the body. If your husband is supporting you, if your family is supporting you, definitely I have seen that your milk production also increases, right? The kind of recovery being showed in those mothers is tremendous, is very good, right? And if you are stress free, trust me, if you're stress free while you're lactating, definitely good hormones will lead to, or happy hormones will lead to better lactation. Okay, so you don't have to be judging all around that no mother is doing that. Of course you feel sleepy because you'll be having sleepless nights for sure. So that point of time, if mother is sleeping, papa or grandma or grandfather can take care of the baby, right? So it is very important that your family should support. Okay, it is, there's a lot of hormonal changes which has been occurring in the body of the female. I've seen a lot of patients going into depression because of this. I've seen a lot of patients having I would say stress or blues. So please, whenever you are meeting a postpartum mother, please try to help her, try to tell her good thing that you're doing very well. Wow, you have learned this, wow, you have learned that. So this will kind of give her a boost to uh, carry breastfeeding and take care of herself.
yeah, yeah. In fact, I think, I mean, it is still quite prevalent, but at least within my friend circle, it has reduced the sort of pressure to be a good wife. You know, these days, a lot of my friends are getting married in jeans and t-shirt, and it's fine. You know, your marriage can be less than perfect. You as a wife can be a little bit, you know, less than perfect, and it's acceptable. But to be less than perfect as a mother, it's unheard of. It's like, you know, there's something just so wrong with you if you don't automatically connect to your child and become the kind of mother that your mother or your mother-in-law or somebody else's mother believe themselves to be. So there's always this sort of idealization of motherhood and the past mothers around you. And if you don't match up to it, you're a failure. And you're right. I've seen so many women go through depression because of it, and it doesn't make the relationship with the child any easier then.
So again, like I'm saying that there is no such word bad mothers, right? Every female or every mother is doing their best for the child. Okay, it is. See, that's what I'm saying. That some mothers who actually wanted to breastfeed the child, but somehow due to some complications, due to some nipple problems, they are not able to breastfeed the child. But they have second option, that is pumping, right? But eventually it decreases. Pumping eventually decreases, but that doesn't make them bad mother, or they are not doing anything good for the child. They, bonding is there in between mother and the child when a mother gets to know that she's carrying her baby, right? So breastfeeding is not one part, I would say, right? If you're not breastfeeding the child, that doesn't mean that you are a good mother. If you're not, if you are doing that, doesn't mean that you are good mother. See, you cannot judge a mother, for sure you cannot judge a mother, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
people will keep saying, and they have to say or one or the other thing. uh,
absolutely.
if I'm talking about today's scenario, most of the females are working, right? It is fine saying that, of course, you can balance your professional and personal life. But when it comes to postpartum mothers, you have a lot of guilty if you're doing
Mhm.
anything wrong to your baby.
Mhm.
They are also suffering the same. Okay. And moreover, then you're commenting upon their, personal things, that
Yeah.
she should not be going to job, she should resign, she should take care of the child.
Mhm.
No, rather you should support your
Yeah.
wife
Yeah.
or your
Yeah.
sister or your, whosoever is.
Yeah.
Okay, so you please don't judge mothers on these basis, please.
I'm glad
Always
you said
my
that.
suggestion to
Yeah.
all the males of the family is, don't judge even the females. You cannot compare. If my mother was not working, or if my mother-in-law was not working, that's of course was not my mistake, right? I have opted work and my, postpartum thing together. I will try to make it or balance it out, but it doesn't mean that I'm a bad mother.
Yeah. Actually, thank you for saying that. It's beautiful to hear it. Um, if one is not getting that support at home, what options are available for mothers, especially when it comes to breastfeeding? Are there some organizations or hospitals that they should reach out to?
Yes, there are some organizations, there are some NGOs who are working upon this. Hospital, of course, if you are going to a maternity hospitals, definitely we have a lactation consultant. Definitely, you should be talking to expert. See, sometimes what happen, I have seen most of the hospital, they don't have lactation consultant, but they have pediatrician. A pediatrician will not able to understand that what is mother is going through. Okay, they know very well about the baby weight and everything, whatever. But a lactation consultant, if I'm talking about, know in and out of feeding, of lactation, so you must go to expert only. Of course, घरों में ये होता है, this is very normal. If you have dadis or if you have nannies,
Mm.
they'll have this set of rule. Nee, ऐसे नहीं, you have to do like this. No, no, you have to
Yeah.
eat this. No, no, you're not supposed to wear this. It is nothing like that. That is why we generally advise mothers to please visit experts. You have a lot of lactation consultants in the hospital, right? You have so many NGOs working upon that, right? You have the WHO NGOs also working upon that. So you must go to an expert only rather than taking 10 advices from different people.
Yeah. And the worst is, of course, relying on the internet, which I tried to do before this episode. So I went online and I took a look at some of the absurdist myths out there. And if you
Right.
don't mind, can you tell me, are they true or not? Because they don't sound very true to me, but you're the expert. Um, does having a cesarean affect your milk quantity?
No, not at all. See, definitely a normal vaginal delivery versus a C-sec will be painful. Definitely, C-sec is painful. You will not able to move around like a normal vaginal delivery mother, but it is not. I would say that you won't able to lactate, right? You will not able to produce milk. This is completely a myth. Definitely you will produce milk, but a kind of any kind of, if you have pain or any anxiety building up in your mind, definitely that hampers your milk production. So we have seen mothers who have undergone normal vaginal delivery lactate well on first second day, but we have also seen a mother who has undergone c-sec lactate well on second third day.
And
Okay, but
does
quantity, yeah.
sorry. Yeah, and would breast size play a role in how well you breastfeed?
No, not at all. Not at all. It is a myth that,
Mm.
if you have heavy breasts, you'll produce more milk, or if you have small breasts, you're not able to produce milk. It's a myth. Definitely, all mothers can breastfeed, can produce equal amount of milk.
And is there some sort of, like, for example, these days people are getting a lot of tattoos, and I have seen women with breast tattoos. Does that hamper your breastfeeding by any chance?
No,
Or
it doesn't.
does the
Not
ink
at all.
get into your milk? No, it doesn't.
No, 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 nothing like that. If
Hmm.
you have any kind of tattoo on the breast, it it doesn't hamper your milk production at all. It's a myth.
Right. And do you need to wean babies off mandatorily within a year of breast milk?
See, that totally depends upon the mother. According to WHO, you should be breastfeeding the child till 2 years. Okay, there's some mother who completely wean off by 6 months because they have to join their work. There's some mothers who are breastfeeding till 1 year. So this is totally depending upon the mother how she feels, that if she wants to wean off 6 months, but we generally advise exclusive breastfeeding should be there at least for 6 months. Okay, after
And
that you wean off, you can, or you wanted
right.
to do it till 2 years, that's also your call.
And does a mom need to sanitize her nipples before she breastfeeds?
No, not at all. There is nothing like that. Even once you have taken bath, uske baad we generally don't ask mother that you have to wash your breast or sanitize your breast once you have taken bath. But yes, of course, if you have applied any kind of nipple cream to your nipple, then we advise that you should dab your this thing nipples with a cotton cloth or a tissue, not wet wipes also.
Yeah. Actually, with you, this question just suddenly came to me when we were talking about nipples. But I remember one of my college friends had a baby very early on. She would have been 22. And at that point, that would have been almost 15 years ago. Exposing her nipples to the gynecologist, she was so terrified and scandalized by that. And I vaguely remember this, but um, there was a lot of shaming and a lot of pressure on her to not show her nipples. And without showing her nipples, somehow she had to go to a gynecologist for advice and so on. Um, do you think there's anything wrong with a pregnant mother showing her nipples to a doctor?
Not at all. See, I don't know how people take it, but we being professional, there are so many mothers who go to pediatrician, right? Male pediatrician. There's so many mothers who goes to a male gynecologist, right? So there is no harm until unless we'll not get to know that what is happening inside you, how we'll,
Hmm.
tell you or advise you, okay, or
So
treat you.
it's
So
the
there
worst kind of control, like to stop a woman from even showing her body to a medical professional.
this is not at all correct, right? Until unless you are not telling or you are not showing things to us, you will not be treated well. Okay, so family has to understand that we being professionals, we are not going to see that aspect. We are hardcore professionals, so we treat the thing like that. Okay, so there's nothing to be ashamed of. If you have such issues, if you have some problem, you must consult a good expert, whether he's male or female.
Right. And lastly, this market for breast milk substitutes has just blown open. I don't know how many types there are. There's organic, there's sugar-free, there's this, that. Um, as a nutritionist, what would you advise as the best substitute for breast milk?
See, I would say breast milk, of course, is the best thing. Second thing, if you cannot breastfeed your child, you can do pumping, right? If it is working for you, you can pump at least, even if you're giving it through bottles or anything, at least you're giving your own breast milk. And even if you're not around, the caretaker can give, husband can give. This is the second option, or I would say substitute. Third substitute, if I'm talking about all these brands, let's say Nan Pro, or you have Aptamil. So that is basically decided by the pediatrician. Okay, some
Right.
babies are underweight, some babies are 3 plus normal weight, some babies are preemies. So that is totally decided upon the pediatrician, or that is totally decided by the pediatrician. That according to the baby requirement, they give the formula milk. Okay, this is by their choice, or I would say according to the requirement of the baby, they decide upon the milk substitute, right? So I wouldn't suggest that, there's any particular brand, but yes, it totally depends upon the pediatrician that, if baby is 3 plus, can be advised Nan Pro. If baby is less than 2 point, can be advised Aptamil Gold. So that depends. That totally depends upon the
Yeah.
baby weight and week of the pregnancy.
In fact, I keep saying this on this podcast, but it's okay to make whatever choice you do, just make that choice with full information.
Yes.
So I've really enjoyed listening to you, and it was very informative. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wind up? Anything you'd like to say?
I would just suggest each and every woman that, see, it's not a responsibility, it's a choice, right? You don't have to breastfeed, just because you are responsible for everything, being mom, right? It is a choice. You wanted to breastfeed, you breastfeed. If you don't want to breastfeed, that's also your choice. But definitely, if something is good for your baby, right? Try, don't give up. If in case things work out, definitely what baby is getting is, I would say, gold,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So
Thank you so
please,
much.
this breastfeeding session, or I would suggest, please try to, get connected to your expert antenatally, so that you are already in mind, you are, you're aware that these things can happen postpartum. So please just talk to your expert. Counseling is very much needed. Information is very much needed, right?
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you so
sharing
much.
everything.
Thank you so much.
I know there's still a lot of research happening on exactly how not breastfeeding will impact the child. We have some ideas, but I do know one thing, that I was breastfed, and once a doctor told me that the reason I can digest dairy so well is because, my mom's mom would have passed on certain gut bacteria to me. And for that, I'm very grateful, because I cannot imagine my life without rubbery and cheesecake and ice creams. And in fact, my love and hunt for dairy is the reason I've often had extremely unusual experiences, like having to crawl under a cow in Nathdwara in Rajasthan, because the temple priest told me that if I did so, he would give me the best rubbery in the world, which it was. And it was one of the best days of my life. So thank you, Mom. If I don't know how else being breastfed might have benefited me, but certainly consuming dairy is one huge positive for me. Has this episode brought information and meaning to your life in any way? And do you have anything to say about breastfeeding and how to support mothers who are finding it difficult to do so? If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to be rated, and you can rate us on any audio streaming platform, as well as Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, and the India Today website.